Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Leverage Your Brand to Unlock the Power of Content Marketing. My name is Liz Groth, Partner Development Manager at CopyPress, and I'm excited to be here with all of you this afternoon. Before we dive in today, I do have just a few housekeeping items to go over. First, the number one question we always get is whether or not today's webinar is going to be recorded. And the answer to that is yes. Please keep an eye on your inboxes because we will be sending out an email with a link to the recording and a worksheet that Alexis put together so that you can start applying everything you've learned today to your own brand and your own business. Second, we will have a Q&A session at the end of today's webinar, but I'd also like to encourage everyone to leave your questions and your comments in the chat section as you think of them. I'll be monitoring this area while Alexis is presenting, and we will pick out a few questions to pin on screen during that Q&A portion. And finally, if you are interested in getting a customized content marketing strategy that leverages your core values, Alexis is offering $100 off her core mission consultations with the code CopyPress. We'll include a link to this in the follow-up email that goes out, but you can also visit the link on the screen below to schedule a one-on-one with her. I believe Alexis is also going to have a QR code that pops up a little bit later in this presentation, so you can scan that as well. Without further ado, I'm going to hand things over to CopyPress's CEO, Dave Snyder, to give a little background on this webinar series and introduce Alexis. Dave?
Hey, thanks, Liz. I'm really excited about today's webinar. I talked to Alexis, who went to Inbound like the CopyPress team did, and we really saw eye to eye on, one, the importance of brand and messaging within a cohesive content strategy, but also that being one of the things that very few people undertake when building out an actual content program, right? People just jump into the content program and start building with an afterthought of brand. And so I thought this was an amazing topic for us to bring to CopyPress audience. And, really, it's something that we've embraced over the years. So, I'm really excited to introduce Alexis Skigen Rago. She is the founder of Mana Marketing. She has a ton of awesome energy and some really great insights. She's done some really great preparation for this webinar, so I'm excited. So I'll hand it over to you, Alexis, to introduce yourself a little bit more.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Dave and Liz. I'm so excited to be here. Aloha, everybody. That's my power stance. I just want to say by the end of this hour, we're going to jump right in. By the end of this hour, you will understand brand strategy and why your small business needs one now. You will know 12 ways to implement and use core values in your content marketing, and you will get started with the action steps needed to get the most from your content creators in less time. But first, for those of you who may not know me, aloha, I'm Alexis Skigen Rago with Marketing Mana. I was born and raised in Hawaii, and now I live in the Midwest. So when I started my business back in 2018, it was important for me to bring my Hawaiian roots into my day-to-day. Mana is a Hawaiian ethos that is basically earning power by doing righteous actions. And so in marketing, you earn power by serving your customers, by understanding their needs and helping guide them to a solution, through a solution, so that you can reduce their pain. I work with established small business owners to attract your dream clients and love your small business. As a small business owner, you likely know where you're going, and maybe you're unsure how to get there, or you just want to get there faster. During our immersive style sessions, you find clarity in direction and messaging as we address your strategic marketing challenges and limiting beliefs. By owning your time and choices without asking permission, you feel fulfilled in your business and in your life. So I just want to say mahalo for being here today to learn about the importance of brand in your content marketing. So what is brand? Brand design provides direction to to be consistently visual. Brand is more than colors and font and logos and the overall style. And it's common for companies to have a one-pager where you share your brand guidelines, but it's really typically focused just on the design. So yes, design has its place. And, if you have imagery that's maybe cartoon-like and you want to project a professional brand, well, that may not be the best execution. Did you know that 65% of the general population are visual learners? So images, whether still or video, they do have higher engagement rates. And that's partly because you can convey information quickly with a visual. It's easier for your audience to digest and understand that information, and that can increase your likelihood for them to share the content. But the question becomes, how did you determine your visual style to begin with? And how do you know what to write or say if you only have design direction? So that's what we're going to be diving into today. There is an opportunity to be consistent in what you say, in what you present, and what you deliver. And this comes through in your brand tone, your promise, and associations. If I ask you what comes to mind when I say any competitive set of brands, for example, Charmin versus Quilted Northern, Kleenex versus Puffs, T-Mobile versus AT&T, Disney versus Universal Studios, there's a good chance you have different images that are popping in your mind, different thoughts or colors or personalities or emotions associated with each brand. Consistency is key. You're going to hear that a lot, to help your audience know what to expect. And by matching their expectations, you are able to build trust with your audience. For brand perception, there's two sides to consider. There's your desired brand association, and that's, what we marketers dream up. And there's how we want to be perceived. But then there's the other side, and that's how everyone actually perceives us. This is otherwise known as brand perception or reputation. It's not uncommon for there to be a gap between these two viewpoints. So if we look at a tech company that believes, right, that their brand is reliable, it's a great value and innovative. But the marketplace may see that same tech company as buggy, pricey, and too many version updates. So consistency, transparency, authenticity, and action will be a big part of the solution to bridge the gap between these two perceptions. And this is key to building trust, another theme you will hear a lot about throughout this hour. So to get your message out in a consistent and effective and clear manner to manage expectations and build trust, consistency is frequency as well as the actual branded message. Your message is a great delivery vehicle for your brand. It's an opportunity to create powerful connections with your dream clients, and every interaction is an opportunity to build trust. When your community, your whole business community, your team, your partners, your vendors, your customers, everyone that interacts with your brand, when they reflect your brand consistently, you are managing expectations. And this is achieved through all forms of messaging, whether visual, spoken, written, all formats, digital, social media, presentations, meetings, phone calls, brochures. Everything is consistent. You are guiding the conversation by managing expectations, showing up consistently, branded, authentically, and there is no confusion about what your brand stands for. So branding is transparent and consistent and authentic. It's unique to your company. If you have a portfolio of products and services, you may have different brand personalities for each of those products, such as, say, S.E. Johnson. They have Windex and Raid and Pledge and Ziploc and many more brands. And each of the brands has a unique personality, but they're all in the same family in the portfolio of products of S.E. Johnson. So while I won't go into your personal brands today, I did want to mention that you can use this framework to help you define your personal brand or who you are as a small business owner or a business person. Today, we are going to be focusing on your company brand, what your company stands for. So let's dive deeper. Brand promise. Brand promise is the promise, what promise does the brand make to consumers? This becomes the consumer expectation of what they will receive from your product and service. And with you being consistent in delivering the brand promise, not only messaging it, but actually delivering it, that will increase their trust. Think about what will consumers get when they purchase your product or your service. What will they feel when they use your products or services? For example, Disney. It's the happiest place on earth. It's family fun. It's clean. It's G-rated. It's magical. Brand expectations is you always delivering on that brand promise. So consistency is critical with your expectations. I once worked with a professional singer. She had her own label, but she was also part of an ABBA cover band. And her brand was tied, highly integrated with her technical vocal perfection, her fun stage presence, her personality, and of course, her performance. Brand perception. How do you want consumers to think about your brand? Be really specific and methodical to create those specific consumer perceptions, and then figure out what you need to do to make sure that those perceptions are met by managing their expectations because you're delivering on the promise. You see how they're all integrated? So a great place to determine your brand reputation, your current brand reputation, what everybody else thinks about you, is look at your reviews. Look at what's happening on social media. Look at the comments people are sharing about your brand. You can also analyze keywords and use this as your prospect's language. Look at the trust. Look at the social proof. For me, my brand perception of Disney changed when I was there when my sons were 8 and 5. And it was, I think, our 4th day in the parks, and we were at Hollywood Studios. And all of a sudden, the 4 of us were there. And then all of a sudden, it was just me and my son, and my husband had gone to the bathroom. And I didn't know where my other son was, my 5-year-old. And terror set in. Now, I had been told that if you lose your kid, because apparently a lot of people lose their kids in Disney, like it happens, there's lots of fun things to see. But if you lose your kid, that this huge support system comes by your side and they help you find him, and it's happily ever after. Well, by day 4 of screaming so much fun on the rides, most of my voice was gone. And in that few minutes in the few first initial seconds when I realized that he was nowhere to be found, I started screaming a hoarse, cracked Cole, as loud as I could. And it wasn't even that busy, but there were people around and not a single person came to my aid. And so then I went into the store that was next door, thinking maybe he wandered into there. And again, screaming as loud as I can. I have that terrified mom look on my face of my kid is lost. And no one, not any of the patrons, not any of the employees, asked, can I help you? Who are you looking for? No one. My entire brand perception of Disney was crushed in that moment. Now, I did eventually find him within about 5 minutes total. And as soon as I saw him and he saw me, I crumbled to the ground and just hugged him, and we were fine. And he held onto my hand the rest of that trip. But forever in my mind, Disney did not live up to its standards. So it's very, very powerful. And as you know, brand is intertwined with emotion. And emotion is the best way to have that connection as long as it's a positive emotion. Because if it's not, you're going to lose that trust that you've worked so hard to get. For brand awareness, does the consumer know about your brand and what you stand for, your brand promise? So you can do tests for this, an unaided recall, top of mind. For example, tell me the name of a plant-based protein. Or you could do an aided recall. For example, have you heard of Impossible Burger? Right? So there's your unaided recall and your aided recall. Obviously, you'd like to be in the unaided recall, and they have a much higher awareness of your brand. For brand value, does your price provide a value so that the consumers will stay loyal to you no matter how the competition prices themselves? So think about a commodity. Will you buy a book from a different source if you know your favorite store, whether retail or online, always delivers on time or excellent condition? Or maybe you prefer the local bookstore, which may not have it in stock, but you get to talk to people who know your likes and interests and can direct you into, good recommendations for books. Think about Amazon. You've got a massive selection, ease of ordering, speed of delivery right to your door, usually within a day, and the overall convenience make it worth that annual membership fee that you pay. And now, possibly, the acceptance of an alleged monopoly and price freezing strategies, in the current FTC suit. But all of these things, what is the price versus the value? For brand persona, this is when you describe your person, your brand as a person. So what do they look like? What kind of clothes are they wearing? What is their personality? What are their likes, their dislikes? How does this brand persona interact with other people? So you're literally bringing your brand personified so it can become more relatable. Finding the right voice to reflect your brand's persona. So your language that you use, your tone, your style. Your brand voice is how we tell people who we are and what we stand for in a way that they can relate and resonate. So is it humorous? Is it numerical and factual? Is it academic? Is it scientific? Is it business casual? What is your tone? And the brand image is the consumer's definition of your product service when they describe your brand to someone else. And lastly, brand elements. So these are your more visuals. So consistency is critical, whether it's colors, fonts, imagery, logos, your messaging, your packaging, if it's a packaged goods, and just tying it all together. Your message, your design, your action requested, what you need when you need your brand guidelines. Okay. Do you find this content engaging? This is what I call messaging that's focused on the features and functions. it can be about as exciting to read as a technical manual. And most likely, no one's going to read it. Now, the last slide that I just showed you, that was taken from the closing credits of Apple at Work's miniseries, which is a brilliant move to summarize the features and the functions of what you just watched in each of these miniseries. So if you haven't checked it out yet after this webinar, go to Apple's YouTube channel and just type in Apple at Work and watch them in succession. Start with the 2019, and apparently they didn't do one in 2021. But you'll get hooked, and it's what I call the perfect example of show me without telling me. So each of these mini sitcoms, which are really long ad forms that range anywhere from 3 minutes to 9 minutes, the story highlights the features and the benefits of the Apple products through situations, through product usage, collaboration, remote working realities, work challenges, crazy deadlines, group dynamics, family dynamics, even when they do the work from home. And you'll just find yourself completely invested in like rooting for these characters, wanting more, you're laughing, and you're having fun because you can relate. This is consistent with the Apple brand, incorporating humor, making things easier, providing protection, and feeling that anything is possible. The storyline uses innovation as a constant theme, and that's right on brand for Apple. Brand brings your product, service, and company to life. The greatest connection that you can have with your clients, with your customers, is their trust. And trust is built from consistency. Brand provides guidelines so your messages remain consistent. And the next step is to create a brand strategy. Now, for those of you who haven't heard about Simon Sinek, he talks about your why. And I like this quote: people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what you do simply proves what you believe. That consistency is critical. Brand strategy is made up of various elements. So we've already discussed the last 3 on this list, but the first 3 are what I call foundational pieces of your business and your marketing. Core values are the very essence of your company. Without them, it's really hard to have direction. Understanding your core values from a deep level, the connotations, associations, the meanings, the stories that you have related to why it's a core value, that's what's important. And remember, core values are not core competencies. So I would expect an attorney to be detail-oriented. That's competency. That's not a core value. A core value is maybe an attorney who is communicative and empathetic. Purpose-driven mission is why you do, who you do it for, and the value that you add. It highlights your differentiation, which is also starting to be built from your core values, and you use your purpose-driven mission and your vision to help build your brand. And your vision is the future state. So for example, my vision at Marketing Mana is to make sure that we reduce the noise in the marketplace. I focus on established small business owners, and so there's a lot of noise, because small business owners are just kind of sometimes throwing everything to the wall and seeing what sticks. If a small business owner is able to take the time, understand their brand, their value, their niche, their customers, and then be able to message that clearly and effectively and efficiently, then they can find their customers, their prospects, where their customers are, because they understand their customers. And they can have a relevant message that is going to connect with their customers. So then what happens is you actually get a louder marketplace because the noise falls away, because you're showing up with your message to your dream clients in the right place at the right time with a relevant message, and they're going to be able to hear it clearer because the noise has gone away. So your vision is your future state. Authenticity is a word that was used in marketing. I think you couldn't go without a conversation maybe 2 years ago without hearing about authenticity. It's not fluff. It's still important. And it's about knowing your why. It's about sharing your story. It's about becoming relatable. It's about showing your customer that you understand them. It's focused on your mission and your vision. It's matching it to your dream client's needs. And sharing your brand throughout your content is how you can become more authentic. Now, I can't see any of you and I can't see any of the comments, but I hope you're putting in the comments like any kind of ahas or questions that you may have, and just let me know what you're taking away. I would appreciate that. I'm an extrovert, so I'm like, it's a little hard to do these webinars when you can't feel the energy, but I know you're there and I appreciate you for showing up. That said, lack of direction, not lack of time, is the problem. We all have 24-hour days. You know, it reminds me of Hamilton, you know, always writing, always going, always doing. And there are just some people that are like that. So when you have that drive, that motivation, that direction, you know what you need to do, and you just got to do it. So small business owners, it's common at one point or another that you may lose your focus or become unclear and not know the direction of your business. This can show up in different ways. It can show up in perfectionism. It can show up in indecision, lack of focus, sharing various marketing messages and just seeing what sticks, thinking you want to update your website, but you're not sure why or how or what you're supposed to say. That's lack of direction. You need clarity in that. And so every time I work with a client, we start with core values. It's the most efficient and effective way to gain clarity on direction, and core values are a great decision screener along with your purpose-driven mission and your vision. So here are 12 uses and implementations of core values in your content marketing. Core values, when I first say that, you probably think of, oh yeah, we have our core values up on a wall, but they don't belong only on a wall. They're a roadmap on how you conduct your business day to day. They're your company's beliefs, philosophy, principles, and ethical standards. They're what your company stands for and determines if someone is a good cultural fit. How well do you know your company's core values? And this applies to all companies. Even if you're a solopreneur and you don't think you have to be communicating your business with anybody, well, you do, because you're communicating with your vendors, with your prospects. You may have some power partners. You are communicating. And so you need your core values for your business just as much as a 5,000 person company does. Without direction, how do you know where you're going? And if it's the right way? Direction comes from a deeper purpose. As I mentioned, when I work with my clients, we always start with core values for your business because they're the essence of your business. They provide a roadmap for your actions, your decisions, behaviors, branding, culture, and general conduct. If you haven't explored your core values for your business beyond a few bulleted words, please, I beg of you, commit that by year's end, you will gain clarity on your business core values and share them with your team, with your vendors, with your clients, with your business partners, with everyone. You can live your company core values in various ways, including your marketing tactics, such as your email, your website, your blog. And it's not the, okay, here's our 7 core values and everything you need to know about each one. It's more about that show me, don't tell me, and explore them. Take time to explore them. And so you could have an evergreen campaign working with your content marketer to explore your core values over time. And that in turn builds trust and awareness. You could write a blog that focuses on one of your core values and shows how your company puts it in action. Your strategies, your marketing strategies, begin with branding that is based on your company's core values. And that's the part of your very foundation that enables you to achieve consistency in the execution of your marketing strategy. And then you have your business fundamentals. These are absolutely aligned with your core values. Your core values are part of your business fundamentals. But again, you don't need to cram your core values into every single one or make sure you're checking off each core value in every single meeting. They're foundational. These, purpose-driven mission and your vision, these are foundational to your business, and they should capture the essence of core values. So when you're looking at your core values and you're looking at your mission and vision, they should appear to be in the same book, or if not even the same chapter. You use your core values as a decision screener to evaluate the fit of your suppliers, your customers, mergers, policies, and other business decisions. And of course, there's also the cultural side. We're talking about content marketing, but I just want to share that core values are essential in building your culture. And so they are key when you're evaluating potential employees, potential new hires, or even potential partnerships. So just keep that in mind. So in order to get more from your content marketing partners faster, you want to share these items with your content marketing provider, because that gets them up to speed. That helps them differentiate who you are and the value you provide. And it helps them capture your essence so that you have that consistency, whether they're creating something, if you're working with a content marketing agency like CopyPress, or if you're hosting a booth at a fair, or, doing your own social media, whatever it may be. If you're in a meeting, people are not going to have that gap of something that they read in a blog or a social media post or in an email that was created by your content marketing provider, as well as something that maybe you did. It should be fluid. None of the readers should know that they were created by different authors. So while your content marketing provider is an expert on content marketing, you still need to provide the direction and goals, as well as the brand elements that we've discussed. So at this point, for those of you that received the framework, I created a 2-page brand strategy brief for content marketing framework. And this framework answers key questions to provide your content providers so that you can get the most out of your content creators in a shorter period of time. So let's take a few moments. I want to give, let's say 5 minutes, and just jot down your ideas. Liz, if you can bring it up so that in case people don't have it, they can see it. Thank you. So it is a 2-pager, and I just want to read through this briefly. You've got your brand. So outline what your promise is, your desired brand perception versus the actual, public perception of your brand. If there is a gap, why and how can we close the gap? That would be really great insight for your content marketing creators to know. The tone, the level of awareness, are you new? Are you fairly established in the marketplace? And what is the purpose of this content marketing piece that you're creating? Is it to attract or engage or retain your prospects or clients? Your desired action. What do you want your reader to think or feel or do as a result of reading this content? And who are your dream clients? I want you to make sure you're niching down to your ideal audience. If you say something like, well, I'm going after moms, my response to you is going to be, well, I'm a mom, but my kids are 12 and 15. And by the way, they're both boys. I have a mom. I'm close to 50. Are you targeting her? Or are you targeting my next door neighbor who has one toddler? Or are you targeting a new mom? Or are you targeting moms of girls? And you can further niche that down. So just like all millennials are not the same, I like to say, look at Justin Bieber and Justin Timberlake. They're on the bookends of millennials. They both sing. They're both named Justin, but they're two very different people. So really think about how to niche. And on page 2, we go into what is your value-based message. Make sure that it's customer-centric. Remember, be there for your customers, serve them, help them solve their pain, help them solve their challenge. So our dream client finds this valuable because what problem do we solve and why is our solution the best? What makes this successful? This is always really important, especially when you're working with any kind of marketer, because you want to understand what are your goals. So is it to create a relationship with our audience that builds trust? What are those maybe softer goals that are hard to measure? And then there are your measurable ones. So any kind of action that your reader can take. For example, the level of engagement, inquiries, meetings booked, follows, shares, opens, clicks, conversions, all of those things that can be measured. And then I have a list of deliverables, as well as just a little satisfaction. Quick question. How satisfied are you with your current content marketer? Do they need improvement? Or is your content just so incredible that you're absolutely thrilled? So take 5 minutes now and go through these, and then we'll be back. And feel free to drop any questions in the comments. And Dave has put in the chat a link where you can download the worksheet if you didn't have it. Okay, we're going to get back in one more minute. And it is not my intention for you to be able to fill out this entire sheet in 5 minutes. So just get started and make sure you have some ideas that you can come back to after this webinar. Okay, and Liz, if you can bring the presentation back up. Okay, so feel free, add to the chat, let me know how that worked. I know some of you got access to it a little bit later, but again, go back, answer it. You will find this is a very helpful framework, and I know that Dave and Liz said that it was dreamy and would help them as well. So make sure you do that. If you are, here's the QR code Liz was talking about. If you are talking or would like to continue our time together and would like to work with me in private sessions, I work with established small business owners, and these sessions are tailored to your needs, your challenges, your questions. I offer various solutions to help you gain direction in message, clarity in direction and message that are tailored to your business specifically. So a great place to start is my 2-hour core mission session. And this is a private, immersive style session. I can do them in person if you're in, I'm out in Naperville. So if you're in the Chicagoland area, we could talk about that. Otherwise, I have done them hybrid. I have done them remote. Doesn't matter. But in these 2 hours, this immersive style session, we focus on your business and define the foundation of your marketing strategy by exploring and defining your company's core values, up to 7 of them, and your purpose-driven mission. We will create that. It's always fun to watch me sweat the last 15 minutes as I'm piecing together the purpose-driven mission. Previous clients have shared that this session provided them with clarity and direction. Another said that the session allowed their differentiation to be highlighted. And these are people that have been in business for close to 10 years. It's really important to make sure that we're capturing your unique value clearly. So if you book your session in the next 24 hours, the actual session doesn't have to happen in the next 24 hours, but if you commit to that, then by 2 p.m. Central Time tomorrow, you could save $100 with the code CopyPress, all in caps. So you'll be able to see great results in just 2 hours. I once did my own core values and it took me over 8 hours. So sometimes you're too close to it, and it helps to have an objective marketing expert help you through it. In case you're wondering, well, has she worked in my industry? I've actually worked or represented clients who have worked in over 33 industries. So industry really doesn't matter to me. So next steps. Define your brand beyond the design. Understand what's behind the design. Understand why your logo is the way it is. Understand who your brand is and how you want to convey it to everybody out there, including your team. You want to create a brand strategy, and you want to share these pieces of information, these just critical pieces of information about brand marketing with your content marketing partner. And the best way to do that is with that framework. With that, we are up to our questions, and we have 15 minutes. So I'm really excited. What do we have? And also, this is how you can connect with me, my digital card.
Yeah. So as we go through the FAQs, add any that you might have into the comments. Like I wrote in the comment section, now's a great time to review that worksheet because everyone should have access to it with that link, and be able to see if there's anything where you're not really sure how to fill something out, so you can get that input from Alexis now. Let's start off with Lisa Pletzer. Asked the question, is social media a different animal when it comes to the brand? I get constant pushback from my social media person telling me brand rules don't apply there because it's a different audience. So Alexis, I'll let you answer that. I'm laughing because I think that's an interesting thing to get pushback on. Like, if there's one place where brand rules absolutely have to apply, it might be social media. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump in there.
Okay, so I'm going to answer this with a caveat. I am direct. Okay, Lisa, have a real heart-to-heart with your social media person, because I don't know if they're the right person for you. I have never heard that at all. Now, while social media may be a different animal in terms of presentation, absolutely, you definitely want to have visual elements and components. And as I shared earlier, video or image is going to have 4 times the amount of engagement than a non-video or image social media post. But your brand, absolutely, what is Instagram? That's all brand. If you're inconsistent, you're going to have a problem gathering an audience and having them come back and feel taken care of. So that managing expectations, I'm having a little heart palpitations for you right now.
I think this kind of has been a historical thing with social media, where like the people that are really creative on social brand wise, like what's popping into my head right now is Arby's. Like, a lot of the fast food chains do really fun things on social media, and they become these case studies. And then what happens is, like, somebody who's creating pipe fittings and is a pure B2B company is like, well, then how do we become funny and interesting? And it's like, it doesn't fit, right? It's like, you can't, it's not a prototype or a mold that you can put on every company, right? So it's like, really, this worksheet is a great place to begin this conversation of saying, okay, well, what is our brand and what are we trying to do? And what you're doing is you're setting up a framework, not rules and regulations for how you guide things, but a framework for how does our brand address people? How do we interact with people, right? Like, when we're even small things, like when we're on Twitter, are we answering as the brand or as the brand? And then you'll see some brands put the initials of the people that are answering, so they have a personalized touch. What I think, this sounds like is a social media person who's very much like, well, when you're on TikTok, people don't want branded messages. Like, you don't know if that's the case. That's such a generalized point of view, because I will say, in a B2B context, which is the next question, no, I want a brand. I want to know that this is an authoritative thing. I don't want somebody doing like some stitched up video on TikTok doing something, right? So
right.
Social media, and I think the bigger thing is social media is the one place, because there's so few checks and balances in terms of timing sometimes, that if you do not have good brand guidelines, it will go awry fast and it will destroy you quickly, right?
Yeah, it's really important to make sure that you're in control of your brand and having those guidelines. If your brand is not fun, you don't have to have fun on social media, but there's still ways that you can engage on social media.
100%.
This also goes into a little bit of choosing the right platforms for your brand, right, Alexis?
Well, so the platforms, yes, it's aligned with your brand, but more importantly, it's aligned with your prospects. So for example, if you're B2B and you're not on LinkedIn, I'm going to ask you why. Right. What are you waiting for? Right. And if you are targeting some kind of mom of some sort, chances are you need to be on Facebook and or Instagram.
Yeah, 100%. And I think there's some trial and error there. Like I bring up TikTok because to me, I don't use TikTok and I find it to be a waste of time. But when I bought my house I'm currently in, we have a septic tank, and one of my friends and a guy that works with us is like, because you moved into that house, I'm looking at all kinds of septic tank TikToks now. And it's like, there is like, especially in the DIY how-to kind of space, there are like directions you can go there, right? But I think for each industry, there is, if you're like in the e-com space or like fashion, like Pinterest still is a place that you should probably be at. But Instagram for sure, right? And then like you said, B2B, LinkedIn is the first like thing you check off on the box because it's a no-brainer.
So I once had a client who was an immigration attorney who created TikToks. And in her video, she would use keywords and point to them. So it was fun, but it wasn't like a complete, like there was still substance.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It actually converted really well.
Yeah, and that plays well for that market, right? You would figure like, yeah, somebody who is interested in that information, right? So, all right, next question. It's a short one. So I'm gonna, I think, add context. What I think this kind of means. So like, because we get this question a lot actually, right? Do you differentiate between B2C and B2B? And I think this goes back to that question of, I'll use an extreme, right? Like the difference between a B2C brand where, traditionally that's where when we think of brand building, we almost always throw out B2C as the examples, right? Like you used Apple as the example. Whereas B2B brand, again, if I make a widget that's a part of a thing and I'm working with OEMs and then I'm kind of a middleman that moves it to people, I start to think, oh, brand building isn't important here. Where I think that's a flawed concept. It's again, your audience and who you're building that brand for, and your brand being a much smaller subset, right? And this also brings up something that I think about a lot in terms of brand building is addressing the pain points. Like your brand needs to be, like I look at pain, need, solution kind of diagram and saying, okay, like your brand needs to be focused on that pain and need component. And there's definitely an audience for that. Even if you're B2B, it's just a smaller subset, right? So what's your take on that, Alexis?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily a smaller subset. So the funny thing is I used to love B2C. I went to business school at University of Michigan, go blue, and fell in love with brand marketing. It's so sexy. And just loved B2C marketing. And that's where oftentimes my marketing when I was working at corporations was doing. When I started my own business 5.5 years ago, I didn't realize that the majority, 95, 99% of my clients are B2B. And I was also now B2B because I had to sell my services. And really, all it is maybe there's added bureaucracy, but guess what? When you're B2C, there might be some other decision makers that need to be pulled into it. You still are trying to figure out what is their pain, how can you solve it, how can you meet their needs. That is still universal. Now, there's a secondary standpoint, right? Because whatever they're doing as a business then has a ripple effect that may eventually get to a consumer. So you may be able to pull in more insights from the ultimate end user, backing up to the business, backing up to how you can help that business help that. And they could also be B2B. So B2B2B, B2B2C, B2, nonprofit, like all of these fundamentals are the same. You need to understand and address it.
Yeah, CopyPress is a B2B company, right? And so we've gone through 10 years of trying to build our brand out and continually iterating on that process. Because we're interesting. We kind of have two customer bases. One is the writers that we actually utilize, right? And then the other is the customers themselves. And I think that's the other thing too, with all marketing efforts, you're not going to hit a home run the first time. You're going to have to iterate on this as you get feedback from people too, right? This is not a set it and forget it formula.
Never.
Right. Next question. If surveys don't get many responses, what are other ways you recommend to figure out the perception of a brand?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, let's be honest, most of us hate surveys. Most of us don't do them. So if you are going to do a survey, incentivize, whether it's I don't know if you're B2C, then you can do a smaller value, like a $5 Starbucks gift card or something along those lines, or, enter to win an, AirPods or something like that. for a B2B standpoint, that really should be maybe not viewed as a survey, but maybe it's a feedback and assessment situation. Hey, we're checking in. We want to see what's working, what's not. And if you can, especially over Zoom, record it so that you have all of those insights, what's working, what's not, how can you address them, what are new pain points. It's basic account management when you're going in and understanding what is happening. Surveys are hard. I have done many, and one was successful, and that was sending out to students. And I got 1,000 people within a week because one person won a $50 gift card. So,
yeah, I think I was going to say incentivization is really something you have to think about with a survey. If there's no incentive, there's going to be low turnout. And that incentivization doesn't have to be every single person, right? It depends on how important the survey is. The other piece I would say with surveys that I've found is try not to ask so many open-ended questions. People go down that rabbit hole too quick, and you are going to quickly not get any answers. Put as many options as multiple choice as possible. You can always offer an other option with those, but I recently worked on a campaign where we were putting together a survey, and there was just too many open-ended. I had to like walk them back because it would have gotten really poor engagement based on that.
And make sure you're asking questions that you're actually going to use the data for.
Right. I mean, I think it's important. Like, let's say you end up with a survey that's 10 questions long. They're multiple choice. Go through it one more time. Be like, all right, which two of these can we lose? Like, start paring that list down. Don't just go with everything you want to know. Be like, what do we have to know from this?
Yeah.
Right,
comes with direction.
And that's such a good point. You can always add a section, even at the end of each question, that's optional if they want to expand and if you want to share more thoughts.
Right.
But
it doesn't make them
have to. That doesn't have time. Yeah.
All right. So next question. I read that social media is fading out as a medium for soliciting sales, but relationship building is still the heart of this. How do you build relationships in social media?
I haven't heard this, and I am a sucker and keep buying things off of Facebook ads. It's horrible. It's like my guilty pleasure. Here's what I will say. I get really annoyed when somebody reaches out on LinkedIn and talks about, a commercial cleaning service and, do they want me for, and I'm like, well, clearly you don't know that I work out of my home. You don't understand who I am. Sales. Okay. Soliciting sales. I don't like that. I do like relationship building. I do like the fact that you're going to be sharing your value and your benefits and your uniqueness. And by building trust, they will be coming to you to say, I want to hear more about what you serve. If you are direct message or just sending out posts that are blatant selling, you're probably going to get a low response.
Yeah, I think, we've done quite a bit of this over the years. And so you have like a couple of different things. And where I've always settled on is, like the question of how do you build a relationship? Building any relationship, social media, interpersonal, is kind of like, what value are you going to bring? Right. And so if you start it there, so, right, like, rather than reaching out to 10 people and being like, hey, I'd like to set up a sales call with you to talk about my product, why not spend the time creating an ebook, sharing that on LinkedIn, and then messaging 10 of those people, hey, did you see my ebook that I put together? I'd love for you to review it and jump on a call. That's a completely different engagement, right? You have given them value now that even from a psychological level, they feel like they need to reciprocate that value that you sent to them sometimes. But you're not just coming out and because the action in cold outreach is you're asking them for something without ever bringing anything to the table, right? And so, like, I think all relationship building is about value creation. That's what content marketing is, right? It's that value creation to help establish whatever the next transactional thing is going to be.
So like this webinar.
Right. I would start the relationship with, here's something of value, or fine, I don't have time to create an ebook. Cool. Just go on those people's posts and start interacting with their content. Again, you're bringing value. You're not just jumping into the middle of their party and screaming like, I've got something to sell you, right? All right, the next question. I hear a lot about storytelling quite frequently. I presume the best way to think about this is that storytelling might be a tool within branding.
Storytelling is so important. People love stories, right? We've been doing it since caveman times. So it's part of who we are. We as humans like to build community, and we as consumers, as business owners, we like to understand the context and the genesis of things. So when I was talking about being authentic and sharing your story, sharing your why, sharing your origin, every website has an About Us page. Now, many people don't use it properly, but if you do, you're sharing who you are, why you're doing this, what happened in this company, your mission, your vision. All of these elements are what you are sharing. And a story is really just a way to convey. It's that show me, don't tell me that I was talking about earlier.
I was trying to find the book in my office. So I have this, like, I forgot what the name of it, but it's like this $300 book I bought that is written by like an old school sales copywriter. Right. So like back in the day when they used to like direct mail, or you had like inserts in magazines that were a page long. Right. And that's where that pain, need, solution kind of model comes from. And that hero's journey of like, I used to have this problem that you have, but now I don't have it. Right. And that is the basis for branding. So even like there's a model out there called Story Brand, which is where you start building the branding model based on the story that you're trying to tell, right? And you encompass it. So I think those two things go incredibly close together, even into the kind of content you create. That's why case studies are so powerful, because they actually take the concept of that hero's journey and apply it to an actual person that got an actual solution as well.
So I could tell you that I worked with two a therapy practice co-owners, and they said, Alexis, we just want to do 2 half-day sessions with you. And I said, okay, why? And they shared, we're going after a new customer segment. Great. We want to understand them. Great. Okay. So we do this. And 11 months later, they've implemented all of the strategies we talked about. They understand who their consumer is, and they grew their business 130% in those 11 months prior, year over year. And that was moving from 6 figures to 7 figures. So like a sizable, real, true 130%. Now I could just say, well, I've grown somebody 130%, or I can talk you through a little bit of that story. I could tell you more. Storytelling also helps evoke emotion, and emotion is one of the best ways for you to create connections with your audience.
Yeah, totally agree.
That's perfect. Well, it looks like we are at time. But before we go, I'd like to remind everyone that we will be sending out a recording of today's webinar via email. We will also attach the worksheet to that as well, just in case you didn't get a chance to download it. So do be on the lookout for that. But we appreciate all of you for taking the time to join us this afternoon, and we hope to see you at one of our next webinars. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Mahalo, everybody. Great engagement. Thank you so much.